Imagine being like absolutely terrified of a camera and not a modern surveillance drone or, an AI facial recognition tool, just a bulky 1890s Kodak camera. That exact technological panic is actually what forced the invention of something you completely take for granted today, the legal right to privacy.
Yeah, it is wild how the tools change, but the core human reaction to them really doesn't.
Right. So, to dive into that reaction, our mission in this custom deep dive is to explore this foundational 1890 Harvard Law Review article. It's called The Right to Privacy by Samuel Warren and Louis Brandeis. We're going to figure out how a single essay laid the groundwork for how you protect your personal data today.
And to really understand why this paper hit like a legal earthquake, I mean, you have to look at the intense pressure cooker of 1890, because this was the absolute peak of the Second Industrial Revolution.
Okay, so let's unpack this context a bit. Are you telling me that right in the middle of the Gilded Age, an era defined by massive labor strikes, the rise of robber barons, brutal monopolies, that society's biggest legal panic was over tabloid gossip and portable cameras?
Well, not the only panic, obviously, but a highly visible symptom of a much larger disease. Society was just becoming overwhelmingly complex, and the legal system was actually undergoing this massive shift away from classical legal thought.
Which basically argued that the law should just leave people alone to make their own contracts, right?
Exactly. But instead, the law was realizing it needed to actively step in, like with the Sherman Antitrust Act, to regulate the negative side effects of industrialization. So Warren and Brandeis saw that the law was desperately trying to catch up to modern life, but it was failing to protect the individual's mental peace.
Right, but didn't the common law already protect people? I mean, if someone comes onto your property to take a photo or snoop around, isn't that just physical trespass? Why did they need to invent a brand new legal right out of thin air?
What's fascinating here is the core mechanism of their argument. They actually didn't believe they were inventing something out of thin air. They argued that the common law inherently evolves.
Oh, so it wasn't just a totally new concept to them.
Right, exactly. They traced how it grew from penalizing physical interference, like battery, to penalizing the mere fear of physical injury, assault, and eventually stretching to cover intangible harms like offensive noises or odors. Nuisance law.
So the law historically adapts to cover new, non-physical ways of hurting people.
That was their exact logic, yeah.
Yeah.
But they identified a glaring gap when it came to the press, because existing libel laws only protected a person's reputation.
Meaning how the community viewed them.
Yes, and property laws only protected physical assets, or maybe the commercial value of a published work. But neither of those frameworks protected your domestic life from being exposed to the public just to sell newspapers. They argued the law needed to protect an inviolate personality, or, as Judge Cooley had recently termed it, the right to be let alone.
The right to be let alone. I mean, that sounds great in theory, but giving everyone an absolute right to hide from the world just isn't practical. You couldn't outlaw all news gathering.
No, definitely not.
So they had to draw some strict boundaries for this new right.
They did, yeah. They recognized that individual dignity sometimes has to yield to the public welfare. If an event is of genuine public or general interest, the right to privacy just doesn't apply.
Right, so think of it less like a physical VIP room you can just lock the door to, and more like a spotlight. If you step onto the public stage by, say, running for mayor, you are willingly inviting that spotlight. But if a newspaper drags the spotlight into your living room to expose a secret, the dragging itself is the crime.
That distinction is crucial, and it leads to their most radical, counterintuitive point. Truth is absolutely no defense.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. You're saying it doesn't matter if the newspaper prints a perfectly accurate secret about you.
Not at all. And it doesn't matter if they published it without any malice or ill will either. In a standard libel case, proving the statement was true gets the publisher off the hook.
Because your reputation wasn't falsely damaged.
Exactly. But Warren and Brandeis argued that when it comes to privacy, the injury isn't to your reputation. The invasion itself causes the mental pain and distress. Exposing a perfectly true private fact to the world without consent is the actual harm.
Wow. So what does this all mean for us today? I mean, this 7,200-word essay literally became the bedrock of American privacy law. It directly inspired courts in at least 15 states to recognize this common law right.
Yeah, whenever you feel you have the legal right to simply be let alone in our incredibly noisy, data-harvested world, you really have Warren and Brandeis to thank. It's a powerful reminder that the law isn't just some dusty rule book. It's a living mechanism designed to protect human dignity against whatever new machinery comes along.
Which leaves you with something to chew on. If the invention of the 1890s portable camera forced the creation of modern privacy law, what entirely new human rights will today's invasive technologies force us to invent tomorrow?